6 Sinister first dates revealed, terrifying encounters that left hearts cursed and souls haunted in the deceptively safe suburb of Cedar Grove. A chill ran through the quiet streets. Jenna, a 34-year-old single mother, was about to dive into what she thought was a new beginning. It started like a fairy tale. She had dropped her sweet 8-year-old daughter, Lily, off at a friend's house, eager for her first date after a messy divorce. But the more Jenna walked through the charming neighborhood, the more something seemed off. The air buzzed with an energy she couldn't explain. Maybe it was the shrill laughter of the children that echoed in unsettling harmony, or the way adults whispered behind curtain-draped windows. She brushed it off, convinced her nerves were playing tricks on her. Heartsink had promised connection and comfort, and Mark seemed like a charmer. But as she stepped into the local cafe, shadowy doubts crept in, half-heartedly folding like the corners of the navigation map she had glanced at moments before. As she sat across from Mark, their conversations flowed, warm and genuine, until her phone vibrated on the table. "Is it weird that your hair reminds me of my mother?" the text read, chilling her spine. The carefree energy vanished. How could he know that? With palpable tension, Jenna looked around. The cafe buzzed with her neighbors, faces she recognized, yet they all felt foreign, like distorted reflections in a funhouse mirror. "Like your hair?" Jenna repeated softly to herself, the words now tasting bitter. With each sip of the weak coffee, the laughter felt robotic. Whispers from the back table tickled at her senses. She caught glimpses of eyes tracking her, the patrons seeming to conspire in hushed tones. The thrill of a first date crumbled under a suffocating silence. Later that night, tucking Lily into bed, a gnawing fear settled in her gut as Mark's message pinged again. "I love your neighborhood. Always had a thing for Cedar Grove." It threw her. How could he know where she lived? Thoughts spiraled, every light flickering menacingly, every shadow stretching ominously. An unsettling realization washed over her, sinking like a stone in water. The next day, Jenna dug into Mark's profile, her heart racing with every click. Photos of him under the old oak tree at the park. At community pumpkin patches, paths she visited often. Panic surged. A bright red signal flared in her mind, as if the ghosts of 1,000 forgotten warnings slammed against her. He was everywhere she was, yet she felt utterly trapped, surrounded by a network of invisible threads tightening around her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The dread coiled within her as she learned of previous dates Mark had, and from them, tragic stories emerged. One woman vanished into thin air after just 2 dates. Terrified, she reached to call the police, her mind racing through futile whispers of paranoia, a housewife with wild fears. When the police dismissed her concerns, she felt the walls close in further. In a frantic state, Jenna received one last chilling message. "You shouldn't have started digging, Jenna. It's too late." Heart pounding, she peered out her window again, suspecting every shadow, every creak in the night. With primal fear igniting her instincts, her suburban haven morphed into a labyrinth of nightmare. As her breath quickened, she wrestled with one desperate question: had she opened a door that should have stayed closed? The next day, Jenna woke with a heaviness on her chest. She glanced at her phone, heart racing, half dreading another message from Mark. Nothing. Yet, the silence felt ominous. She took a deep breath, trying to shake off the sensation as she prepared breakfast for Lily. "You're not gonna believe what's for dinner tonight," Lily chirped, skipping around the kitchen, her innocence a bright spark against the shadow lurking in Jenna's mind. "Dinner? How about we just focus on breakfast first?" Jenna forced a smile. It was a fragile facade. As the morning progressed, an unsettling feeling clung to her, grazing her skin like fingernails on chalkboard. Every time she glanced at the window, her heart would thud harder, anticipating a figure that never appeared. After dropping off Lily at school, Jenna drove toward the cafe again. This time, she didn't intend to meet Mark, she had to find answers. Was she just imagining the threats? As she turned onto the street leading to the cafe, the air felt thick, almost stifling. She parked and stepped out, scanning the area. Everything seemed the same, yet different, a familiarity twisted by dread. Inside, the chatter faded into a low hum, muffled like whispers in a dream. Jenna approached the same table where she had sat with Mark. There was something maddening about being here again. As she rubbed her sweaty palms against her jeans, the barista caught her eye. A glance, a flicker of recognition. Before the woman turned away. "Coffee?" she said, purposely avoiding Jenna's gaze. "Sure, I'll take a don't." The barista's voice was low but sharp, freezing Jenna in place. The barista leaned closer, her eyes frantic. "You need to leave. Now. You don't belong here." "What? What are you talking about?" Jenna's voice trembled, panic rising. "Just trust me, go. Before he finds you." Before Jenna could respond, the barista's attention darted behind her. Jenna instinctively turned and felt ice flow through her veins as she saw Mark walking through the cafe door, his expression casual, like he owned the place. Her heart raced, and she moved her feet, only to find them glued to the floor. The room blurred around her as he glanced her way. Mark's lips curled into a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. They were dark voids that sent a jolt of terror spiraling through her body. "He's here." The barista whispered frantically, edging toward Jenna, urgency in her voice. "Run." Without thinking, Jenna bolted toward the exit, but Mark's voice rang like an eerie bell. "Where do you think you're going, Jenna?" She dashed into the brightness outside, gasping for breath as her feet pounded against the pavement, panic igniting every nerve in her body. She knew she had to get to Lily, but how could she escape Mark and the strange sense of control he had over her life? Just as she turned the corner, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. Heart hammering, she shoved her hand in to grab it, expecting another taunting message. Instead, it was a notification from HeartSync. "We have to talk. Meet me at the old park tonight. Alone." No name. No signature. Just a chilling urge to be there. Jenna's mind raced. Was this part of it? A trap? Fear begged her to stay away, but she knew she had to uncover the truth. The stakes were too high, her freedom, her daughter, her life. But as she sprinted to her car, she caught a glimpse of Mark at the edge of the cafe, eyes fixed on her like a predator locked onto prey. The hunt wasn't over. And something darker loomed, waiting in the old park as shadows stretched under the glaring sun. Who had summoned her? What awaited her in the dark? The terror of the unknown wrapped around her, squeezing tighter as the clock ticked down to nightfall. The daylight slipped away slowly, wrapping the world in a darker, oppressive shroud. Jenna sat in her car, hands trembling on the steering wheel, a bead of sweat tracing down her back. She glanced at the clock again. The minutes crawled, taunting her with their relentless passage. She felt like a puppet caught in a game she didn't understand, manipulated by unseen strings. She wiped her forehead and stared at the old park through her windshield. It loomed like a forgotten nightmare, trees casting jagged shadows that danced with malevolent intent. Behind those shadows, lurking thoughts whispered warnings. What if this was all a trap? But she had to know. The stakes had never been higher. Her heart pounded like a drum as she finally turned the ignition, determined to confront whatever awaited her. The engine roared to life, but the real terror lay in the uncertainty ahead. Her breath came faster as she drove to the park, her mind racing with questions and fears. What kind of darkness thrived in those woods? Would she find the answers she craved or more questions wrapped in nightmares of regret? As she parked, the crunch of gravel beneath her heels echoed like a deadly countdown. The air was thick with tension as she stepped onto the path, each step forward felt like treading on fragile ice. The night closed in around her, amplifying the rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. Shadows crawled along the ground, shifting as if alive. She reached the clearing where the streetlights flickered weakly, a pitiful light against the encroaching darkness. Jenna felt exposed, vulnerable. There was a bench nestled beneath a large oak tree, a sign of companionship in an otherwise desolate place. Waiting. She took a hesitant step forward, and then a rustling sound caught her attention. Clenching her fists, she turned slowly, hoping to catch a glimpse of who or what sat hidden among the overgrown bushes. But nothing emerged. Only the soft sighing of the wind broke the silence, mocking her growing dread. Jenna, the voice came from the darkness, smooth yet cold. It sent a chill racing down her spine. She should have fled, but she was frozen. Fear paralyzed all rational thought. Standing there, just beyond the glow of the streetlight, was a figure. Smaller than Mark but equally menacing. "I know why you're here," the voice continued, a sadistic pleasure lacing the words. It was familiar, but Jenna couldn't place it. "Who are you?" she croaked, searching for cover. A silhouette shifted. The dim light illuminated the glint of eyes. A grin slowly emerged, stretching across a face Jenna thought she could trust. Her stomach twisted as she recognized the unmistakable features. "Don't you remember me?" the figure teased, stepping closer. You shouldn't be here," Jenna stammered, her mind racing. "You don't know what you're doing." "Oh, but I do. I know everything." Every word dripped with malice as the figure advanced. Jenna took a step back, dread clawing at her throat. This wasn't part of her plan. This danger felt more personal, deeper than Mark. "Come closer, Jenna. We have so much to discuss." Fear coursed through her, pushing her to run again. But as she turned, a rustle erupted from behind her. Jenna spun, eyes wide as Mark stepped into view, a silent shadow among shadows, a predator in pursuit. "Jenna," he breathed, possession in his tone. Panic surged as she realized there was no escape. She was caught between the two figures, trapped in a nightmare of her own making. It dawned on her then she had stirred something much more sinister than she ever intended. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, desperation cracking her voice. A haunting laugh answered, echoing through the trees. Then, everything went dark. The last thing she felt was the press of cold air against her skin before she was yanked backward into the abyss. And in that darkness, a chilling question lingered: had she just crossed the threshold of her deepest fears? What had she awakened? Jenna gasped, her lungs fighting against the cold that enveloped her. The darkness pressed tight, the weight of silence heavy and suffocating. She struggled to take a proper breath, panic clawing at her chest. Flashes of light flickered behind her closed eyelids, shadows dancing across her mind, but none brought clarity. Confusion reigned. A sharp sound split the air, a twig snapping somewhere nearby. Jenna's body responded instinctively, adrenaline surging as her fight-or-flight mechanism kicked in. She felt her feet hit the ground, the rough texture of dirt and grass beneath her. Her eyes flew open. She stumbled forward, disoriented but alive. Panic roiled in her stomach as she glanced around. The park was gone. In its place was an endless expanse of blackness, the kind that swallowed sounds whole. Attempting to orient herself, she strained to identify any shapes within the depths of the night. But the darkness held firm. "Jenna," the voice echoed again, a haunting whisper curling around her. It seemed to come from every direction, seeping into her mind and wrapping around her thoughts like a noose. The familiarity twisted like a dagger in her heart. "Is anyone there?" she called out, the sound of her own voice breaking through the void. It felt weak, as if fear had stolen her strength. The air grew colder, wrapping around her like a frigid embrace. She took a cautious step, barely able to hear her own footfalls in the vast nothingness. A rustle behind her. Jenna spun, squinting into the dark. The tension caught in her throat as she called out again, "Show yourself." An icy wind whipped through her, carrying whispers, snatches of conversations, giggles, and cries. Each sound twisted the knife deeper into her heart, memories warping into something grotesque. Shadows shifted, drawing closer, taunting her with silhouettes that flickered like flame. Then, a pair of eyes glinted in the darkness. She felt her heart stall. There it was again, those conflicting emotions swirling inside her. Her mind raced. This wasn't just anyone. It was, "Remember me, Jenna?" The figure emerged, its features gradually becoming distinct. The air froze further as recognition ignited a fresh wave of terror. It felt like someone had carved out her insides. You're dead," she gasped, horror washing over her. A laugh bubbled up from the depths of the figure's throat, low and sinister. The face twisted in delight that smacked of madness. "Dead? Maybe. But I never left you, just like you never left me." Jenna's breath quickened, panic churning within her. The darkness around her pulsed, responding to her fear with a creeping dread. The figure's eyes bore through her like a consuming fire. She took a step back, feeling the weight of the world crashing down around her. "You think you can escape," it taunted, stepping forward. "You woke me for a reason. You brought me back." The ground beneath Jenna's feet tremored. "No. I didn't want this. I'm sorry," she shouted, stumbling backward into the void. "Apologies won't change the past." The voice rang out, triumph laced within it. "You've brought all of this upon yourself. You can't run from your demons, Jenna." With a scream that seemed to pierce the void, Jenna turned to flee. But the landscape shifted, and shadows leaped out to ensnare her. She could feel the cold grip of fear wrapping tighter and tighter around her. She was trapped. Suddenly, a blinding light flashed. Jenna shielded her eyes. When she opened them again, the landscape had changed, crystalline and vibrant. But lurking beyond the veil was the echo of that sinister laugh, a reminder that the darkness was never far behind. "What have I unleashed?" she whispered to herself, trembling as a thought clawed its way to the forefront of her mind. How could she possibly confront a force that had haunted her from the shadows? And as the light began to fade, Jenna realized with dawning horror that the game was only beginning. Jenna blinked against the harsh light, struggling to make sense of her surroundings. The beauty was alarming. Pristine trees, flowers in impossible bloom, and a sky that sparkled unnaturally with color. It felt like stepping into a surreal painting where everything seemed just a bit too perfect. But she couldn't shake the lingering chill. She edged forward cautiously, the ground beneath her feet thrumming unnaturally. Each step echoed as if the earth itself was watching, waiting. The vibrant colors dulled, and shadows began creeping in, curling around the edges of her vision like dark tendrils. Jenna pressed forward, every instinct screaming at her to run, yet something deeper anchored her in place. "Jenna, you can't forget." The voice again, softer this time, emanating from the depths of her mind like an old song she wished she could unhear. Memories surged uninvited, painting themselves in the corners of her vision, moments she'd rather forget. The birthday parties, the laughter, the cries in the night, all marred by a darkness that had seeped into her very being. "Stop it!" she shouted. "You're not real. You're not here." But the shadow breathed around her, weaving through the air, settling at her shoulders, whispering doubts that echoed off the walls of her mind. Each whisper was a thread pulling tighter around her throat. "Why don't you remember?" It cooed, and with that, the beauty around her shifted. The flowers twisted into grotesque shapes, their vibrant petals wilting into dark, gnarled versions of themselves. The sky turned from blue to a sickly green, swirling like an oil spill, sudden and chaotic. No. Jenna pressed her hands against her ears, desperate to block out the sound. You can't do this. You can't take me back. But the world continued its sickening transformation, and with it came flashes from her past that clawed through her mind like a phantom at midnight. Faces flickered before her, old friends twisted into figures of regret, masks of sorrow and despair frozen in time, their mouths moving in silent screams. You did this, Jenna, the entity hissed, now looming closer. It stood tall like a dark cloud, its features merging and swirling, impossible to comprehend. You brought me here. You awakened what was always there. Fingers trembling, she felt for her phone, half expecting that simple lifeline to cut through the nightmare. But a wave of vertigo crashed over her, and the device wasn't there. She was utterly alone. Face your truth. The shadow yelled, and suddenly, she was swept from breathtaking colors to the depths of a shadowy alley, drenched in rain-soaked memories. Please. Jenna stumbled, her heart racing. She didn't recognize this place. The echoes of her hurried breaths mixed with distant screams tangled in the air, and the chilling sound of footsteps drew nearer, a menacing cadence that paralyzed her with fear. Can you see it? The voice had turned almost playful now, mocking her futility. They're right behind you, Jenna. Your demons, they're right here. She spun, and her breath caught in her throat. Dark silhouettes closed in, their forms writhing and distorted, echoing the laughter of those she thought she had lost. As they advanced, their faces morphed into ghastly shapes, contorted, desperate, and full of rage. A sudden thought struck her like lightning. What if this was just the beginning? What if escaping the dark figure meant confronting every shadow of her past? With tears blurring her vision but a fire igniting within, Jenna took a shaky breath. I will fight. She screamed, stepping toward the encroaching darkness. I won't let you win. But as she advanced, the shadows swirled tighter around her, blurring the line between the past she dreaded and the fear of the unknown. Would facing them mean her salvation or her doom? And as the figures lunged forward, Jenna's resolve faltered. She had to know, could she truly battle against what she had unleashed, or would her fate mirror the screams that echoed all too sweetly in her ears? Jenna's heart raced as the shadows lunged. She felt the weight of their darkness pressing against her skin, making it hard to breathe. Each twist of their form seemed to mock her, their laughter merging into a nightmarish cacophony that pulsed in her eardrums. Are you ready to remember? The looming figure asked, its voice dripping with malice. It reached for her, fingers spiraling like black smoke around her neck. Jenna flinched, trying to back away but found herself rooted to the spot. No. I won T. She screamed, the sound shredded by the violence of the shadows. She pushed ahead, even as dread gnawed at her core. Memories washed over her like cold waves, each one a stone sinking her deeper into despair. Lost friendships, broken promises, a haunting guilt she couldn't escape. But just as the suffocating grip tightened, something inside her ignited. With desperate fury, Jenna screamed, no more. She summoned every ounce of strength she could muster and charged into the darkness. The air felt electric as she collided with the nearest shadow. It flared bright, sending tendrils spiraling away from her. For a moment, she felt almost invincible. The laughter twisted into shrieks of indignation, the darkness retreating ever so slightly, revealing a flicker of light behind the chaos. Face us. You can't just push us away. A shadow roared, forming a familiar face, a past version of herself cloaked in sorrow. Stop. You're not me. Jenna shouted. The figure smiled wickedly, the resemblance unearthly. But I am, Jenna. I'm the part you want to forget. A chill ran down Jenna's spine, freezing her breath. The other shadows stirred, inching closer. There were fragments of people she had known, friends, lovers, family, all twisted and broken. She stumbled back, a surge of panic crashing through her veins. You don't own me. Then who are you? The face asked, its voice a haunting echo. Who are you without the shadows? The question sliced through her, exposing the fraying edges of her identity. She faltered. All her life, she had run from these pieces of her past. What if they were all that was left of her? Let me help you remember. Another form begged, reaching out with open hands. Jenna could see their pain, but fear gripped her tighter than ever. No! She cried, shaking her head violently. I won't fall for this. But confusion swept in, and she could feel their anger, their bitterness. It wrapped around her, turning the once vibrant memory into chains. You can't escape what you truly are, the shadows taunted in unison. You are us. With a deep breath, Jenna tried to think of the light, the moments of love, joy, laughter. But all that met her were these twisted versions that flickered like dying embers. Remember the joy? One whispered, its voice coating her thoughts with sticky sweetness. When something precious was ripped away? Was it joy you felt then? Or the darkness that enveloped you? A warm tear slid down her cheek as she inhaled sharply, the air thickening with despair. Silence. I will fight. She screamed again, driving her fists against the encroaching gloom. The shadows writhing around her began to pulse violently, as if shocked by her defiance. And then, just like that, the ground trembled beneath her feet, the energy shifting. A crack appeared in the shadow's looming cloak, revealing a blinding light that threatened to engulf her. Jenna's instincts kicked in. Could she use it? Could it be the way out or just another trap? As she took a step forward, determined to break free, the shadows roared in furious unison. You cannot escape. You are forever tied to us. But Jenna felt the light beckoning her with open arms. I am not afraid. She shouted, racing toward the fissure. Just as she reached it, the shadows surged, attempting to pull her back, pulling at her very essence. She screamed, not out of fear but of raw resolve, as she plunged into the blinding brightness. The moment she crossed into light, a violent shock pulse echoed through her. In an abrupt second, it all faded, the screams, the memories, and the shadows. Silence enveloped her. Like a thick fog, raising a different kind of fear. Was it over? But as she turned, her heart sank. What lay ahead was an endless void. And in that eerie silence, she heard the whisper once more, you can't escape, will always be with you. Was she truly free, or had she merely stepped into another nightmare? With dread tightening around her heart, Jenna took a hesitant step, unsure of what awaited her in the darkness ahead. Jenna's foot touched down on the void, and it felt cool and unforgiving beneath her. Her heart thudded in her chest, a frantic rhythm echoing in the emptiness. It was absolute blackness, yet she sensed something was there watching. Hello? The sound of her voice felt thin, swallowed by the void. She strained her eyes, but there was nothing, only darkness that twisted into shapes, shadows coiling like smoke. A low chuckle rippled through the air. You think you're free? Jenna spun around, her pulse racing. She couldn't see anything, yet that voice clawed at her, dragging memories back from the depths of her mind. The echoes of laughter thrust her back into the spiral of unease. I am free, she declared, though doubt gnawed at her insides. Free? The voice mocked her. You don't even know what freedom is. The darkness thickened, forcing her to take another step. As she moved, the ground warped slightly under her foot like quicksand, shifting with each motion. It was unsettling, as if the void itself was alive, eager to consume her. Leave me alone, Jenna cried, squaring her shoulders. But the shadows began to swirl, splitting and morphing. Shape after shape emerged, flickering in and out like the worst kind of dream. Faces appeared, eyes wide with either anguish or fury, people she once loved, now twisted and contorted by anger. Why did you forget us? One of the figures cried, mouth stretched into an unsettling grin. Because I had to. You hurt me, Jenna shouted back, but guilt chewed at her. There was truth buried in their accusations. Is that what you really believe? Another figure hissed, its breath warm despite the chill surrounding them. You ran and buried us. But we are still here, Jenna. The shadows lunged, reaching for her, their fingers grasping at her throat. Panic surged within her. The place she had thought might hold solace now felt like a noose tightening around her. In a flash of clarity, something shifted within her, a flicker of resistance. You don't own me. Get away. With every ounce of courage she had left, she threw her arms wide and screamed, enough. The dark forms recoiled, releasing her but only momentarily. Enough? The voice echoed, almost flippantly, like a whispering wind coaxing her. You're so afraid to face us. Suddenly, images flooded her mind, fragments from her past of laughter shared, promises made, darkness embraced. Each fragment pulsed like hot coals, threatening to ignite some dormant pain. She stumbled, her breath hitching. Stop. Face us, they all urged together, or we will always follow. This was the pivotal moment. Jenna stood on the precipice of choice, feeling both dread and resolve intertwining in her heart. Face my past and make peace? She muttered, half to herself. All those broken pieces she ignored, now demanding attention, demanding she felt deeply. Face us, they taunted, their voices circling her like vultures. The dread coiled around her heart until she thought she might choke, but amidst the pain, clarity blossomed. She realized the shadows held answers she had run from, answers that shaped her every choice. Fear surged, yet she pushed it aside. Taking a deep breath, Jenna spoke into the dark, show me. She felt the void constrict before vibrating with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Shadows receded, forming a flickering path illuminated by a soft, pulsing light that seemed to flicker like a heartbeat. Very well, the voice intoned, low and dangerous. Step forward and see what awaits. As the figure's clarity melded into ethereal whispers and flickers of warmth, Jenna hesitated. The weight of the choice loomed, heavy with consequences. Would she confront the truth or succumb to the darkness? In that moment of uncertain resolve, the path ahead rippled. A face emerged from the light, familiar yet shadowed. Are you ready? It asked softly, sending an involuntary shiver down her spine. The choice lay before her. Was the light a way out or only leading her deeper into hell? What awaited her on the other side? Did she have the strength to confront her past, or would she become just another shadow lost to the void? Jenna took a step forward, her breath hitching in her throat. The familiar face emerging from the light, it felt like an anchor with an undertow, a mix of comfort and dread. It was her younger brother, Ben. His features were softer in the glow, but the sadness in his eyes pierced through the light, making her heart shatter. Ben, she whispered, the name barely escaping her lips. Are you ready for the truth? His voice trembled, coated in the same fear she felt. The shadows whispered behind her, a constant reminder of the torment she fled. Truth? She asked, panic tinging her words. What truth? What do you want from me? A scoop of silence settled in the air before Ben answered. To remember. To face what you buried. The shadows swirled, the faces of lost loved ones stealing her breath away. They moved closer, their mournful wails pressing against her like a thick fog. You want your truth, Jenna? They snarled. You must embrace what you fear most. Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath her, becoming a gray canvas that erupted with flashes of her past. First, there was Ben's laughter as they raced through the sunlit backyard, the warmth wrapping around them like an embrace. Then, the smile of her childhood friend, Lucy, the way she reached out to Jenna during their carefree days in school. But it all faded to black, a horror buried deep. Her heart raced, and a cold sweat lined her palms as she pressed deeper into the suffocating silence. It grew heavier, wrapping itself around her like a vice. No, I can't face this. Jenna stumbled back, but the darkness lunged forward, pinning her to the now trembling ground. "Do you see now?" Ben's voice trembled, his body flickering like a candle. "You ran from your past to escape pain, but it never left you. It feeds on your fear. Stop. Please, stop." She shouted as guttural sobs cascaded from her lips. The pain of loss was a wound that throbbed relentlessly. But no one stopped. Instead, the shadows began to chant, low and unyielding. "Face us. Face us." The sound grew louder, puncturing her mind like nails scraping against glass. And then with a crack, the ground split open. A dark maw opened vast before her, an endless abyss. The chanting grew louder, a cacophony of screams cloaked in her memories, echoing past grievances and heartaches. Jenna's knees buckled, and she cried out. "Jenna!" The figure of Ben sharpened, his voice cutting through the chaos. "You have to choose. Either confront the truth or be consumed." Time seemed to freeze around her. She could dive into the darkness, a choice that felt like home, but the thought of losing herself petrified her. As she lay there, trembling, Jenna thought of the warmth of Ben's laughter, the brightness of Lucy's smile, and the aching void of everything she lost. Tears streamed down her face, a torrent of realization washing over her. "I don't want to forget." "Then step into the light." Ben's voice pierced through, each word a beacon. "For once, choose to remember rather than bury." Jenna closed her eyes tightly, pain twisting in her gut. "But what if I can't handle it?" "Then you'll remain lost," he replied. Jenna's heartbeat thundered against the drum of uncertainty. The truth loomed before her, a choice like standing on a cliff's edge. She could feel the abyss pull her, the shadows clawing for her to surrender. Taking a deep breath, she made her decision. With sheer force, she straightened her spine and stepped forward, inching toward the light. Right as she reached for it, a crack echoed a new truth waiting to be uncovered. The shadows screamed, static electricity hummed in the air, and the fabric of reality warped around her. "Will you be ready?" The voice echoed, deep and unfathomable. And in that moment of reckoning, Jenna realized, the chains of her past were far more twisted than she ever knew. What truth would she find? And who would she be once it was unearthed? Jenna flinched as she stepped into the light, its brilliance consuming her thoughts, peeling away layers of fear. The glow enveloped her like a snug embrace, but burned with an unsettling warmth. Instantly, she was no longer in the void. She stood in a long-forgotten familiar place, the backyard of her childhood home. The air felt thick, saturated with memories. Jenna's heart raced as she looked around at the rusted swing set and overgrown grass. The colors here were vibrant, almost hauntingly so, contrasting sharply with the darkness that had nearly swallowed her. But this vibrancy felt alive, and Jenna could almost hear the echoes of laughter. But then the shadows lurked at the edges, looming vaguely as reminders of her past, as thoughts she had tried so hard to suppress flickered back to life. "Keep walking," urged the voice of Ben, steady and calm, but edged with an urgency that made her shiver. "You have to confront them." She could barely breathe. Each step deeper into her own memories felt like a plunge into icy water, disorienting, shocking, and unbearable. She hesitated but pressed on. Before long, Jenna found herself standing before the old tree where she once carved initials with Lucy. Her fingers twitched with the memory, sparkles of joy eclipsed by the heaviness of what had happened. As she leaned against the gnarled trunk, the scene shifted. Suddenly, she stood outside her high school. The familiar busyness of young faces filled her with a chill. Laughter echoed, but the sounds twisted, morphing into taunting whispers that echoed her deepest insecurities. "You let them down," they hissed. "You weren't there when you should have been. Stop." "No!" Jenna screamed, but the words only fueled their momentum. The figures grew closer, draped in shadows as guilt engulfed her. Faces she recognized blended with those of strangers, and they all turned to her, their mouths agape, silent screams penetrating her heart with icy dread. They wanted answers, they demanded to be seen. Why didn't you save her? One figure cried, the faint outline of Lucy surfacing through the fog. The brightness of her eyes haunted, the remnants of smiles now twisted into deep frowns of disappointment. Why didn't you remember? Another echoed, distorting into the figure of her mother. Jenna stumbled back, the weight of every choice pressing down on her. They'll evolve you, Jenna, Ben called out, his voice trembling. You can't hide anymore. With each face that emerged from the shadows, each painful memory wrapped itself around her throat. Panic lodged in her chest, squeezing, suffocating. The garden around her blurred, and with every heartbeat, a cascading series of shades appeared, memories fueled by resentment, despair, and guilt. Face us! They shouted in unison. Every word sent a tremor through her body. You have to confront the truth. Then, the air shifted again. All at once, Jenna was thrown into another vision, crashing into the fateful night of the accident. A swirling chaos of darkness consumed her, each pulse a replay of the moment, the crash, the tears, the heart-stopping realization. Twisted metal and haunting screams echoed in her mind, drawing her back into that hellish moment. Remember. The shadows bellowed, reaching for her. Face the truth of your cowardice. Jenna's limbs shook, her breath quickening into shallow gasps. I can't do it. Then deny yourself forever, a voice whispered, more haunting than the rest. Stay lost. The choice hung heavy in the air. Would she let them drag her back into despair? Or could she find strength and confront the pain head-on? No more running. Jenna screamed back into the darkness, her voice rebounding against the silence. But as she prepared to fight back, the ground trembled violently, splitting apart, revealing a churning abyss before her, a deeper darkness waiting to swallow her whole. Do you dare to leap? A voice rasped from the depths. Her heart hammered in her chest, the shadows closing once more. With hands shaking and a mind racing, she faced the gaping maw. What was beneath could be worse than the terror standing before her, or perhaps, it held the key to her escape. Would she plunge into the depths, risking everything to uncover the final truth? The choice was hers alone, but every heartbeat whispered one dreadful question: was she truly ready to confront the past? Jenna stood at the precipice, the gaping maw of darkness swirling with an ominous pull. Every muscle in her body screamed to turn back, to flee from the chaos and sorrow it promised to unleash. But she felt the cold grip of shadows at her back, their voices echoing cruelly in her mind, demanding acknowledgement. The weight of every regret hovered around her, begging to be confronted. Do you dare to leap? The voice taunted again, thick with malevolence yet seductive in its possibilities. It was terrifyingly inviting. Perhaps, hidden within the dark might be the truths she needed to mend her shattered soul. Taking a deep breath, Jenna remembered Ben's words: each moment faced could be a fragment of healing. With a surge of resolve, she took a step toward the darkness. I'll do it, she murmured, barely loud enough for herself to hear. I won't be afraid anymore. And then, she jumped. The air rushed around her as she fell into the void. For a moment, there was only silence, the rush of her heart drowning out every whispering doubt. She plunged deeper, twisted memories flashing by like flickering images on a film reel. Guilt, fear, regret, each one striking her with an emotional blow. Finally, she landed softly, almost as if she had been cradled by the darkness itself. What lay before her was a shimmering pool of light. The borders shimmered, filled with remnants of voices, a place where echoes mingled, stories merging together like ribbons woven in a tapestry. Standing there, Jenna took a tentative step forward. What is this? She questioned, her voice trembling against the quiet. Your truth, the shadows hissed, now softer, almost gentle. The flickering light pulsed like a heartbeat, inviting her in. Jenna felt an undeniable pull toward it, a desire to understand the wholeness of herself. As she bent closer, the surface rippled, revealing visions suspended in time. There, she saw Lily's laughter, carefree and pure. She saw her mother, radiant and full of love, and Ben, before he was lost forever to the world. But intertwined with those bright memories were darker moments, arguments, silence, and the echoes of her worst fears. "Embrace it," urged a voice from the pool, a sound that felt hauntingly familiar. It was Ben, his essence vibrating with palpable energy, his eyes steady. "This is the path to healing, Jenna. You mustn't turn away." She hesitated, battling the fear that clawed at her insides. "But I've buried so much, what if it overwhelms me?" "Then face it," he urged, compassion infusing his tone. "It's only through acceptance that you can reclaim your light. Let it wash over you." With each heartbeat, she surrendered to the illumination, letting memories wash over her like cleansing rain. She stepped into the pool, the warmth wrapping around her like a familiar embrace. As she plunged deeper, she felt herself transforming, past pains bubbling to the surface, but with each fragment, she felt lighter. Jenna relived the car crash. She saw herself standing there frozen in time, pain etched across her features. But this time, she didn't shy away. Emotions flooded over her, guilt and fear churning together, but within those depths emerged understanding. Forgiveness sprouted from the heartache, not only for those she lost but for herself, the wild, fierce emotion she had kept shackled for too long. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I didn't know how to face it." A light, warm and bright, exploded within her. Things started to ripple and change. Visions of her family emerged, one after another, not in anger, but in love. They surrounded her, wrapping her in warmth and understanding, their expressions shimmering with acceptance. "I love all of you," she cried, and the words echoed back, wrapping around her like a security blanket. She felt the shadows begin to thin, dissolving into a cascade of light. Jenna emerged from the pool, trembling yet invigorated. The darkness that had plagued her faded, replaced with serenity and strength. In that moment, clarity struck hard. She was no longer a prisoner of her past but a survivor, who had faced every shadow that had haunted her. The fears no longer owned her. She stepped back into the familiar light of reality with a newfound resolve. Each breath felt lighter, filled with the promise of new beginnings. She chuckled softly through tears, a sound filled with release. And there, in the silence of her heart, she understood darkness would always exist, but so would her will to overcome it. As she stepped forward, a familiar weight lifted, replaced with the warmth of hope. Jenna jolted awake, gasping for breath. She was back in her room, the early light creeping through the curtains, illuminating her face. For the first time in years, she felt free, unburdened, ready to embrace her daughter and the life that lay ahead. Joy washed over her. "I can do this," she whispered confidently and got up, ready to forge ahead in a world that was once again full of possibility. Maybe today would be the first step toward everything she had wanted: happiness for herself, for Lily, for her family. She smiled, excitement buzzing through her energy. And just like that, Jenna stepped forward, leaving the shadows far behind. "Now, listen up. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help spread the love. Flood the comments section with your reactions and wild theories about this jaw-dropping conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this epic finale. Join the community, folks. It's time to make our voices resonate.